Then yeah, either way, yeah. Maybe look for lumps. All right, and do me a favor and go through your ABCs briefly.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Okay. And just move this hair over towards us.
Have a watery eye.
There you go.
I had that this morning too.
Okay. So when she asks you a question, say that I asked you, what did you have for breakfast?
Cereal.
You would say, for breakfast, I had cereal.
Okay.
So do your best to try to rephrase her question into your answer.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Okay.
So we'll start.
Okay. So I'll just read the questions. I don't know if they told you. I teach a class on aging, and so the students came up with several questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And so some seem connected, some don't.
Okay.
So, in no particular order. So if you feel at any point you want to say something again, if you feel like you didn't say it how you wanted it to sound, then you can just tell us.
Okay.
So thank you for being part of our interview. And we are just going to ask some questions about the highlights of your life and what you have learned from aging.
Okay.
So the first question, please tell me your name and a little about yourself.
My name is Pat Croco. I taught second grade most of my career as a teacher. For 30 years I was a teacher. I have 3 children. I'm recently retired. I lived for probably about 30 years in New York and moved recently, in the last 15 years in Florida. I'm married for 45 years, so that's about it. I've had a lot of different little careers in my life. I was kind of a late bloomer. I ended up becoming a teacher later, but I was a florist. I worked in retail, and I was an at-home mom.
Okay, I'm going to have you do that one more time, but the main thing that you missed was your age. So your name, your age, and...
I didn't want to say my age.
Women never give their ages.
And you
Okay.
have to be careful because we're going to be able to hear you.
Go.
Yeah.
Go out of here.
No, you can sit down and watch.
You can't trust him to sit down and watch.
I get kicked out of my house.
Okay, I'll try to say all that again.
Yep.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so please tell me your name, age, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Pat Croco. I'm 66 years old, recently retired from teaching, taught for 30 years. Before that, I was a variety of jobs, including a florist, a stay-at-home mom. I worked in manufacturing and retail. I have 3 children, grown children. They're all grown up. I lived in New York, in the state of New York, not New York City, but in the state of New York for about 30 years, well, 50 years. And we've been down here for a little over 15. We've been in Florida. I taught, my career was teaching. I loved it. And I just recently retired in the last year.
And so now that you're retired, what do you do typically during the day? What hobbies, interests, or activities do you like to do?
Well, retirement, I don't know how I had time to work, honestly. I've been so busy in retirement. I do a lot of sewing. I volunteer at school like once or twice a week at least. It just seems like there's just so much to do, to travel, to do shopping. Your days are pretty full when you're retired. So some of it is fun, some of it not so much fun. But my hobby now, I've been sewing. I did some quilts, and now I'm kind of into making these little rag dolls. So I'm very, very busy. I have a 90-year-old mother who takes up some of our time as well. You know, we take care of her. Um, we're just very busy. Beach, you know, just sitting back and enjoying life.
And what are you most proud of, such as your greatest accomplishments or achievements?
Well, probably I'm most proud of my children for, you know, they've really just been such a great, um, I won't say my accomplishment, but I'm proud of their accomplishments. And as far as my personal accomplishments, I'm very proud that when I decided to become a teacher, my children were not, you know, I mean, I had children. So that was a lot to kind of take on, to go back to school and uh, achieve what I wanted to achieve in my life. You know, at that point, I, you know, I had to kind of stay in their lives, and you know, we had the baseball and the dance lessons and all the things that they kind of have, and at the same time get myself through college. So I'd say I'm most proud of their accomplishments, maybe because I know how hard that road is, and because I've done it myself. So
And how has your life changed since midlife around age 40?
oh, um, I would say I have become more self-assured. I know what I want and what I like. Uh, I've just grown in confidence quite a bit since 40. Um, I've watched so many, you know, the good things and the not so good things in life. You know, we've been through quite a bit, you know, as far as like tragedy and just wonderful things like grandchildren. When I was like in the mid 40s, my son had his two children in those ages, and it just was. It's nice to be at a point in your life where you're where you want to be. You know, you're doing the things that you love, and I think it takes until you get to those ages to really get there. And that would be how, you know, what's changed the most.
Do me a favor, and in order for us to tee that up, I want you to restart it. So the main thing is just to get out. My life has changed a lot since middle age, or a statement that just kind of sets up that question for me.
Okay. Ugh.
How has your life changed since midlife around age 40?
My life since 40 has changed immensely. I'd say we've moved, we've faced some tragedies and highlights, and I think the biggest change since 40 is just in the ability to feel you're where you want to be, you're where you belong. I kind of know what I want in my life. I'd say I'm where I want to be in life. You know, I had chosen my career, and you know, I really felt good about what I was doing. Whereas before 40, you tend to be not so confident. You know, you're not really sure what you're doing. I'd say after 40 was really the best times. My grandchildren were born. Um, my career flourished as a teacher. I watched my kids grow up and go to college. It just is a really good time in your life.
What historical event in the world affected you the most in your lifetime?
Oh my goodness, there were so many things. You know, when you get to be this age, you've seen so many things in life. You've seen, you know, like I lived through the Cold War with Russia, the assassinations of JFK and RFK and 9/11. I mean, there's just so many things that really, those pivotal events in your life that help, you know, really make you grow into what you are. But I would say, for me, the biggest event that I personally went through was just going through. When I graduated from high school, I graduated in 1971, so that was like the height of the Vietnam War. You know, you had Woodstock in 1969. I mean, it was really, really a very exciting time for change. And for me personally, it kind of was when I went to college 1 year when I got out of high school. And I'd say that was my pivotal moment that made me politically and personally, kind of molded me into what I believe in and what what I think. And I think part of the reason it was such a time of change in the country, and it was really a time for reevaluating some of the biases and prejudices, and it totally, you know, I kind of came from a Republican, you know, not kind of a conservative Republican shell, you know, whatever. And I think that really changed my attitude and made me look beyond what I knew, what my little circle of life was. So I'd say that, you know, everything combined during those times, and even today, you know, when you see things happen, it's all kind of molded by those years when, you know, that year that I went to college and met people from all different walks of life and had, you know, some of the experiences around me. I'd say that would be it.
What has changed the most in society since you were young?
I honestly think, you know, as far as what changed in society, I think society has become, it's going to sound really weird in these days and times, but I think it's become more accepting of, I think we have less of a underbelly, you know, where we put people who are different. I just think that it's become more, our society has become more global and more aware, and hopefully, I mean, I'm thinking we've all become a little more accepting of those differences. I know there's some people that don't want to let go of that, but I don't think there's anything more beautiful than the diversity that you see and are allowed to see. When I think of the 1950s and 60s, when I was growing up, you didn't see that. You know, it was, even encyclopedias were white, you know, I mean, really white, blonde, curly haired little boys and girls were pictured in those. And I think, you know, that diversity and that acceptance of differences of lifestyles is the biggest change. And it's a good change. And hopefully it'll continue.
What have you learned from aging?
What have I learned from aging? I think I've learned that you have to be more patient with yourself. You have to be more, you can't blame everybody for some of the predicaments that you have. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that it's so important for younger people to remember that, you know, you're going to age. So take good care of yourself, eat well, keep your body fit. And even as aging, I think I've learned that you have to stay active. You have to move around because as your body ages, you can have the mind of a 20-year-old and the desires of, you feel 20 on the inside or maybe even 4 sometimes, but you're, you have to, you have to keep that going. And part of the way is to keep physically active, keep mentally active, and you know, that would be the biggest thing, I think.
Beginning of that had interference with the wire.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we.
Well, why don't you set it up again? You don't have to go through the whole
Yeah.
thing, but the most important thing is to say,
What I've learned from aging.
yeah, I've learned a lot from aging, you know, or getting older, I've learned a lot. Gained a lot of insight, something to that extent.
Okay, so I'm like experienced and
Yeah. So everything you said was perfect. It's just that we need something to lead into it.
oh,
It's
okay.
just interference with your microphone for a second.
Okay, and that was, so I don't have to say the whole thing?
Nah,
No, but just kind of
lead into it.
lead into it. So
Okay.
the first sentence is the most important one. After that, if you trail off, it's fine. You don't have to hit every point you just hit again, but
Okay.
yep.
All right. So
So what have you learned from aging?
I've learned so much as I've aged. I've learned I have so much more insight for older people and older experience. You know, I think as you age, you really get a lot of experience, and I've learned that you need to keep yourself fit and healthy. You know, as you get older, it's so important to really stay positive, and, you know, be available to help people.
Hold on just 1 second.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Just this fridge. So unplug it.
Oh,
Yeah, I started hearing something.
so I have to do it again?
No.
No,
I think we got what we
Yeah.
needed.
So I'm done?
No.
Not
Oh.
yet. A few more questions.
not yet.
It must be really hard to film outside then.
Oh yeah, I could hear the plane. I could hear some of the cars coming by, but that's something we can't do anything about. And
Right.
that microphone is what we normally use. These ones that were picking up everything, we cancel those out.
All right, good.
Okay, ready?
Ready?
Yep.
Ready to
Okay.
rock.
And how do you feel about aging?
I feel, you know, as far as aging goes, I feel pretty good. I feel like I mean, it's not bad. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's natural. It's the way life is. So it doesn't, I mean, there are times when I wish I could do something that maybe I can't as well as I used to. But basically, it's the way it is. It's life. And it has its good points and bad points, but basically, I think I feel good about aging.
What is something you can do today that you struggled with as a younger adult?
I'd say as a younger adult, I struggled with patience, maybe, you know, being patient, like even when I'm sewing and things like that. I wasn't as good at that when I was younger as I am now because I have, you know, I have more patience with it. I take my time more. I think the other thing that as a young adult, I had more trouble with social situations. And I think as you get older and you start to, or as an older person, you feel more comfortable being in your own skin. So I'd say that the biggest things that I struggled with as a young person was dealing with other people, knowing what to say or what not to say. And that's really improved as I've gotten older. I think I feel more comfortable.
What advice would you give your younger self in your 20s or 30s?
Well, to myself and to anybody in their 20s and 30s, I'd say take good care of yourself. Really remember that one day you're going to be older, and you're going to need to be prepared for that. You need to financially to be prepared. You need to be, and mainly physically and mentally prepared for that. Physically, I think if you get older and you have a healthy body and you're feeling good about things, you're going to enjoy that older age much better. I'd say I tell myself, don't smoke, don't drink, keep yourself physically fit. That's what I would say.
And who has most positively influenced your life?
Who has most positively influenced my life? I would say my husband. He's always been my supporter. He has encouraged me in every single thing I've done. He just, there's nothing that I can't do. Well, he believes there's nothing that I can't do. Let's put it that way. So I would say he's had, even from the day I met him. And, it's not necessarily smooth sailing all the time, but definitely he's always had my best interests at heart and definitely encouraged me.
Let's piggyback off that. And the question, what I'm wondering is, or what I'd like you to speak on is the value of relationships through the aging process. And it's not just the husband, but friendships. Talk about the value of maintaining relationships, good relationships throughout the aging process.
Okay.
So maybe just ask her, what is the value of maintaining good relationships throughout the aging process?
What is the value of maintaining the social relationships in your life through the aging process?
Relationships are always important in life. And probably most importantly, as you age, your friendships, you really need to make time for friendships and for family relationships. As you get older, you need people. When you're younger, a lot of times, it's like, you're raising children, so that's kind of your focus. And you have relationships that are doing the same thing. But as those relationships end, sometimes you find yourself, okay, who am I going to have to go to the movies with, or to to do things with? And I think it's really, really important to have those relationships as you get older. And a lot of times older people don't they don't have them. They don't make time for them. Or, in this day and age, it's people are working later in life. So it's sometimes you get isolated. And I think it's really important. You have friends that you want to go to the movies with or go shopping with. And it's very important to maintain them. And it's also important to maintain your relationships with your children, because they get busy, and you really, as the one with the most time, really need to make that time for them and try to keep interacting with them. So, but relationships, and they do change over time. Like I said, you have your friends who you raise babies with, and hopefully you can maintain those friendships as you go through the cycle of life. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but I do think they're important to maintain. I have friends that I've had for years and years. I have a high school friend that we call, we send. She lives in New York. We live down here. When we get up there for a visit, we always go to see them. But, and it's nice to have that relationship over time. Who knows who you were when you were 14 years old? So, yeah, I think it's very important.
Cool. So when you were conceptualizing this documentary, Heather,
Yes.
is there anything where you're like, man, if I could just get somebody to say this on camera, that's one of these points that I need these kids to know? Because now's a good time to get something like that, to coach it out. Like, what was the purpose of this documentary?
Well, so, where I might take it would be somewhere different than what the students made it.
Sure.
And so
Uh-huh.
with the students created, I think we've honored that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we got it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you got any thoughts or anything?
No, I did, but then it went away.
Okay. Well, I think you did great.
I think
Yeah,
we
you
great.
did. It's
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the
So-
other